open a new project for this lesson. It can be basic activity or something, or even you can also open the project from some previous lessons. It doesn't really matter. So what we will be talking about today is the topic for classes and methods. And I will be first describe what is the class. So the class is like a general definition or description for something from usually something from the real world. It can be, if I go for some example, you can, for example, have some pet at home, but we can describe him in general way. So, for example, we can ask what is his name, or what is the color of the pet, or what is the species. And then, like that, we can actually, if it's, for example, the dog, we can create a class for dog. And then we can use this class. So we can create the instances of that class to describe your own dog or the dog of your neighbor or some other. We can also make it even more general. So we can, for example, create a class not for a dog, but for an animal. So it can be then reused for multiple purposes, right? All these classes are usually having some like data or the variables. And also it can have some logic, which is hidden by the methods. And I will already share the screen. And I will create a new project. I hope you all already have this. So you can see even our newly created project already has some classes here. You can see in the structure. The class is always, you can find out with this keyword class, then it always continue with the class name. This rest of it you don't really need to know because that will be in some of the next lessons. You cannot really see any variables here, but you already see that there is some logic bound to it, which is hidden in the methods. This is all the methods are written with this keyword fun. And I will already start to create our first class. And it will be class describing this lesson. So it will be academic lesson. I'm starting with the keyword class, then the name of the class, and then I can define some initial variables for the object. So it's all we can ask what is common for all the lessons. For example, each lesson have the topic name. So I can create the val topic name, which will be the type of the string. Also, all the classes have some content. So I can also create the val for content, and that can be the array for of the type of strings. And we can continue like that. So, for example, I want all the lessons to have their own teacher, but we don't have the class for teacher. So first we have to create the class teacher. I will go the same way as for the academy lesson and create the teacher. And again, we can ask, like, what is defining the teacher? So I can say every teacher will have the name. And that will be, again, type of the string. And we can define some other attributes, like, for example, sex of the teacher. And that can be enough. Like, it can be super simple. And now I can already use it. So I can say the academy lesson have the teacher. And you can see already Android Studio helps us with that. So we can use the first option for the teacher. And to have some last variable, we can say, let's say, if we liked the lesson, so that can be variable, so it can change, like the lesson, and that could be true or false boolean. Now we already have like our class with some basic variables, and then we can go for the body and create some logic for that lesson. So I will create the example function, teach the topic of the lesson. I will start with the keyword fun, then name of the function. Then in basic bracelets, we can have some parameters, so we can pass some data inside of the function. I will leave it empty for now, and I will go for the logic in the method. So we can, for example, print the topic name. You already know the logging, so I can write the message. Topic of this lesson is, and then the value of our topic name. I can, for example, also use the teacher here, so it will be taught by teacher. And again, same way, I can use the value of the teacher. And I can directly use some attribute of that object. So I can, for example, print the name like that. I can also, for example, teach the content of the lesson. So I will go through this array of content we have. For that, we can use something what you have learned in the previous lesson. So we can use the for each. I will go for this option. So I will go through the array and print all the content. Like this. So now we can play with the parameters. So let's say I want to define if I want to write the topic name or not. So we can put the boolean here. as a parameter show the topic, which will be the Boolean. And then we can already use this variable inside. And if it will be true, we can write down that first log with the topic. The last thing for the parameters, which I want to also show, is we can also define some callback. So we can actually pass some like method, which can be defined somewhere else than in this block. So I can pass the definition of the method, like for example, evaluate the lesson. So I will define first the name, then I have to define like if there will be some parameters, which there won't be any, and also if there will be some returned value, which won't be any. So let's say it will be a unit. And then I can already use this method and call it anywhere. So I will call it in the end of our lesson, right? So now we already have the simple class with also its own logic. So we can try to use it right now. I will use it here in onCreate method. So once we run the application, it will be all run. So I will create the instance of our class. It will be Wednesday lesson. And it will be the academy lesson. You can see already that it is helping us and saying what data we have to pass in. So I will pass in the topic name, and also some content, which have to be array. So it will be array of learn about classes. And also we learned about methods. And we still have to pass also the teacher. So I will create the teacher who will have the name and also the sex. And also we have to pass the last parameter, if we liked the lesson. Here I would also want to show that we also can define some default values for the variables. So if I go back into the class definition here down academy lesson, I can say that the like lesson by default will be true, for example. And then you can see we already don't have the error because we don't have to pass this value when initializing the object. So now we already have the object and we can use it. So I can, for example, teach the topic. And I can pass the Boolean if to show the topic. And I can also define what should happen, like what will be the evaluation. So I will pass in the body of a method because our second parameter is the method. And I will log some simple message. Like that. And that's all of what I wanted to show you today. I will run it right now.
Johana, maybe can you briefly show returning something from methods, which we already have there, some methods. Returning an answer.
Like whatever, I don't have idea right now.
Well, we actually have this on create options menu, for example.
Actually, I can just like show it here. So if, of course, our methods can return some values. Usually, mostly those are booleans, like if some logic was, for example, successful or not. So if we are returning some values, we start the same with the keyword fun, then the name, then we have some parameters, and then we are defining what is the type that we want to return. And then inside of the logic, you can see here the keyword of return and then the value. And that's exactly how we are returning the result of that method. Yeah, we are already running out of the time, so probably it is easier right now like that. Let's see. I will rerun it. Yeah, so you can see here from the logs that we actually wrote everything that we defined in our method. So that is all from my side. If you have any questions for what I was describing.
So I do have a question, Johana. So we defined the class, right? The class is called Academy Lessons, right? And that's some logic in it. And then you defined an object that's called Wednesday lesson.
Yes. So
is it an object, or is it, if you go scroll up?
Yeah.
The Wednesday lesson is an object, or is it a method?
So this is the object, like this is the instance of the class.
Of the class, okay.
It is actually the example of the general academy lesson, right? You could create another instances for tomorrow's lessons, or yesterday's lessons, and those would be the object, the instances of that class. Like I choose this because it's like common for all of us. So
okay. And you define it as val?
Yeah, because
it's a finite value, right? Or value that's...
Yeah, so we are using val or vars based on if we want to change that object by some other logic or not.
In this case, we are not changing it, so we are using val.
Exactly. We are not changing anything, so I just create it as a val because it will stay like that.
Okay.
That's why I also created this inner variable, like the lesson, because I expect liking the lesson can change during the time. So for example, after the showing topic, you could know like you like the lesson, but in the end you can change the mind. And
okay, thank you.